And welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Smith. I help you simplify home education so you can work wonders in your home. And today I'm going to do something a little more different and I think fun. I'm going to talk to you about travel schooling or road schooling. One of the benefits of homeschooling is that you have the freedom to travel in the off season, not when there's a lot of spring breakers or fall breakers or it's the summer vacation. You can travel any time of the year, whenever is the best for your family to travel or the best time to travel to a different country. There's so much flexibility. And my husband works remotely, which I know a lot more families have that option of working remotely. And so when you homeschool and can work from anywhere, it opens up so many opportunities. So my family has been able to travel a lot in the past 10 years because of our situation. And we've been to Canada and Mexico. We've been to Puerto Rico. We spent 2 weeks last year in Puerto Rico. The Indiana winters get a little gloomy and cold, and so spending 2 weeks in Puerto Rico was fabulous, and we did so much. We were able to learn so much. And we've also been to over 15 national parks around the US. Our goal is to get to all of them. We'll see if we can do that before my youngest graduates, which will be in 18 years. So we have some time. So before we go, we like to study and dive deep into the place that we're going. And during our travels, we don't study as much. We like to do more hands-on exploration. And then when we get back, we do some more deep diving and reflection about what we've learned and maybe what we want to learn more about. Then we dive deep into that. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that and how I found the best way to learn while we're traveling and how our schedule looks. So I'll talk to you about that. And I'm doing this all in preparation for a big trip that my family's taking. We leave next week. We are using my husband's parental leave from work to travel for 5 weeks in Southern Europe. So we're flying into Madrid, Spain, and then we're going to spend about 4 days to a week in each area. So we'll be in Madrid, then Barcelona, and then take a train up through southern France. We'll be going to Marseille, Carcassonne, Arles, I think is how you say it. And then we'll go to Cinque Terre and in Italy, and Florence, Rome, Naples. Then we'll fly to Athens, Greece. And then we're going to take a cruise, a 4-day cruise around to different islands, and then fly from Athens to Istanbul, which we're flying through Air Turkey or Turkey Air. And so we have a 3-day layover there in Istanbul. So we'll explore there before flying back home in late March. So we have a big trip planned, and I am going to attempt to take videos and do a little vlog, I guess, as we are traveling, mainly for our friends and family who would like to keep up. Also for my family's records, like just to have those videos and talking about what we enjoyed. But I thought at the end of each video it would be really helpful to share the books and the things that we studied or the topics that we focused on for our travels, and then talk about which things were family friendly, what we would do next time, what we enjoyed, what we did not enjoy, and just do that so that if there's any other families out there that are travel schooling, they can watch that video and get all that information in case they want to go. So look forward to those videos. That's all I'll be posting or talking about for the next month and a half. And then I'll get back into the regular routine of homeschool and how to teach your children in April. And so let's just get started. So the first thing that we do before we go on a trip is we look through this book called Maps. Now, this one is really targeted for younger children, but I feel like my older children really enjoy it as well. So let's see if we can find a good horizontal. Oh, well, we'll just start here with France. So it just has a map of the country, but it's illustrated, so it's easy for children to see things to visually see things. They're like the food and some famous people. And this is where I like to start because it's going to show you natural things that you can study. It's going to have people, Claude Monet, the Lumiere brothers, Louis the 14th, all kinds of people and things and animals and architecture. So this is a good starting point. And so we look at this, we learn about it. You can watch some videos about it. I like my kids to be asking the questions and choosing what we're going to study. And we can even tell them, this is the area we're going to be at. Let's look up some things that we want to do, things that we want to see. So that is maps. And I cannot pronounce the authors, but I'll put the link in the description. So once we've made a list of things that we can study, then I start gathering books. I like to focus on a few different things. I like to focus on the geography and the nature part. If we're going to the US, these are great books to use, and you might even be able to use them for other countries as well. This is called The Biomes of North America by Rebecca Johnson. And like I said, you might be able to use these for another country. I prefer to use them for the US when we travel to national parks. So it talks about the biome, and it's like she's taking you a walk through that biome, the animals and the plants and things to look for. So that's a really good one. Another good one, if you're in the US, is Little Stories of a Big Country. This is an old one, so you may not be able to find it. I know it's on archive.org if you want to read it digitally. But she just talks about different areas of the US, mainly national parks back when some of them weren't national parks when she wrote this in the early 1900s. But she has some really cool stories, especially Mammoth Cave and the Redwoods and Yellowstone. There's some really good stories in there that got my boys excited to go visit. So those are natural things. You could also read some books about animals that they might see there. Now, our trip to Europe is really focused on history and architecture because, there's going to be animals and there's going to be beautiful things there, but that is what we are focusing on, is the history and architecture. But in the US, I like to focus a lot more on the biome and nature study and plants and animals. And actually on my website, I have been putting a list of books and things to study when we go to national parks. So if you want to check that out, the link will also be in my description box for my website. And so there's I think 3 or 4 national parks that I have so far. I have a lot more in the works, but life gets busy with 4 little boys and homeschooling. So I'll slowly get those out. The other thing we like to focus on is architecture, which again is what we're going to focus on in Europe. And so I just try to find books about the architecture, stories about the buildings we're going to see. This one is about the Santa Maria del Fiore Cathedral and Dome and how that was built. This was great. My boys really like this one. And when we were done, we looked up a YouTube video visually showing how they believe the dome was constructed. So that's really helpful to look up some videos to see it, how it was done. When we were reading about the Colosseum, we also watched a video on how Roman cement is made. So a man actually made Roman cement in the exact way that the Romans would have made it from start to finish. That was really cool too. Really good series is, or I guess it wouldn't just really be series, but an author is David Macaulay. He has city, castle, cathedral, pyramid, mosque, and I think that's it. He might have more, but these ones are great ones. These ones would be more for late elementary, middle school, high school age kids. As you can see, I know a lot of homeschools are already familiar with this, but this is something I like to read before we go because it gives you a good idea of how it was constructed. It gives you a history. Some of these are focused on a specific castle that was built. But if you're going to be visiting castles built during the same time period, it's going to be pretty much the same. And that was David Macaulay. When we I wanted to read this before we went to Rome, or Arles, or Pont de Gard in France. And I'm not pronouncing these correctly, I know. But this is just how a Roman city was made, and aqueducts, which we are going to be seeing as well. So this is a good one. Another option, if you can't read these beforehand, you can read them after, which I'll talk about as well. This is another fun book to read if you're going to be visiting castles. And a series that I highly recommend, you'll probably be able to find these at your library, is The Wonders of the World books by Elizabeth Mann. She has The Great Wall of China, Brooklyn Bridge, Machu Picchu, the Great Pyramid, Panama Canal, Hoover Dam, Tikal, Empire State Building, the Roman Colosseum, and the Parthenon. A lot. So there's a lot of options. And I've been using these. We've been reading the Colosseum and the Parthenon. So awesome series. It is very living book. It talks about the history of it, but it's all story, which is great. My boys have all listened very well. And then it also goes through the science of how it was built, how this architecture was built. I was reading the Brooklyn Bridge, and that one was really good. So Elizabeth Mann, Wonders of the World series. There's going to just be random books that you can find about. This is another good architecture for younger kids. It has just a couple page stories. There's the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, so we're going to read a little bit about that. And so yeah. Now, that's architecture. Another thing that you can do is learn about read biographies of people from that city or country that you will be studying. So we are reading about Leonardo da Vinci. I love the Diane Stanley books. She has a lot of options. She has Leonardo da Vinci. She also did Michelangelo. And she has biographies of people from all over the world and from all times of history. Because we'll be going to the Sistine Chapel and hopefully the Leonardo da Vinci Museum in Italy, we are reading these. And, there's just not going to be time to study everything that we want to study because we're seeing so many countries, but we're going to read some more when we come back. And so just something to keep in mind. The other thing that you could read if you're going to somewhere that's going to have architecture is this architecture book, Young People's Story of Architecture, and I'm trying to remember her name, V.M. Hillier, and she has done a lot of good books for kids. It's another popular series within the homeschool community. All right, so that is biographies and architecture and nature study. Another thing is just a general travel log by someone. We really like this one by Richard Halliburton, the Book of Marvels. He also has the Book of Marvels, The Orient. This is the Occident. I don't know how to say it actually. This one we've been reading this one. We read about the cathedral in Vatican City. We read about Gibraltar, Carcassonne, which we'll be going to. And he has traveled to all these places, and he's an excellent writer and really makes it come alive and makes you excited to go see it. So Richard Halliburton's Book of Marvels, he has 2 different books, and that one is in print. It's been reprinted, and it's available on Amazon. And another biography that we are reading is the Picasso, because we'll be going to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona. So Girl with a Ponytail is one that we read today, and a couple days ago, and my boys are very excited to go see some of his paintings. But Lawrence Ann Holt does a lot of biographies about artists. And so if you're going to a city with a great art museum or a museum dedicated to an artist, these short picture book biographies are really good. There's also Degas and some other artists that are featured by Lawrence Ann Holt that we are going to be reading. So those are the books that we're reading and we're focusing on before our studies. And some other things that we like to do are watch Europe from Above. There's also China and India from Above. This documentary series or docuseries is on Disney Plus, but I'm sure that there's so many other documentaries that you can watch. It's up to you. You may say, oh, I want my child to experience it when we get there and not watch it beforehand and have spoilers, I guess. But we've really enjoyed the Europe from Above series, and it's given us ideas of what to see. It's also given them a lot of perspective on why these places are so amazing. So we like to watch documentaries before we go. There are also, my mom just let me know about a series on Prime Video, which is called, it's Rick Steves, and he takes you on tours and talks about things that you can and should see, things, tips, advice on traveling in certain cities. And so we are going to be watching those this week and maybe watching them in the evenings before we go somewhere on our trip. So preparing that way is really good. Another way I prepare my kids for traveling to another country or region in the US is map study and map questions. This is simply looking at a map, and we have a huge wall roll down map in our schoolroom, and I like to look at that, but you could get an atlas from the library, or you could get buy a map of that country on Amazon before you go and do map questions. The easiest way, and I just discovered this a couple weeks ago, is to just use Chat GPT and ask it to generate map questions of Italy, or even the southern region of Italy. You could be specific if you're going to only one part of Italy, but ask it to generate questions for that country or region. And then it won't give you the answers. So I usually say, after it gives me questions, I will say, okay, give me the answers to the previous questions. And then it'll give me answers to those previous questions. Another way that you can get a better response is to say, include land and water formations like bays and islands, or include mountains, or volcanoes, or cities. You can ask it to be specific and it will give you those. So ChatGPT is a great way to get those map questions, and you just lay out the map or look at the map and ask those questions while your children look at it. So if, say, example, we are going to be going to Naples. So I said, okay, which seas surround Italy? Or name the 3 major bays that are in Italy. And then I could say, what is the name of the mountain range that runs through Italy? And so just doing that, your children are imagining it, they're picturing that region or that country. So when you're traveling, they're going to have that in their mind, and they're going to have a better idea of where they're at. It's just a fantastic way for them to be prepared for traveling. If you say, oh, we're in this city now, and then we're going to travel south to Naples, they've already looked at that. They already know, oh, we're going through this mountain range, we're going to be going to this bay. So it's a great way to get them prepared and interested and aware of what you're doing. So that's just map questions and looking at a map while you ask them. And so that is how we prepare before we go. What do we do while we are traveling? I don't like to bring a lot of stuff. Now, I think it's important to have some math going on, especially during the school year. So I'll bring my laptop, and you could do Khan Academy. If you're already doing an online math program, then you can just bring a computer to do that. But you can do Khan Academy, just a couple lessons a day, even just reviewing. And if you don't want to bring a computer, you could even just review math facts and make up story problems for whatever concept that your child is learning about in math. That is a great thing to do, and I've done that before while we're driving, while we're in the airplane. My child and I take turns making up story problems related to the concept of math. Fractions, division, multiplication, and doing that for 10 minutes, awesome way to do math. Just keep that fresh in their mind. So Khan Academy, or just reviewing you don't have to bring anything with you. And as far as books and other things, just my children that can read really well, they bring a Kindle, and I put on some books, some Kindle books on there. So it's Yesterday's Classics, have most of their living books in Kindle form. So I've put a lot of books on there, some biographies and just some interesting books for him to read. You could also just skip school altogether and just have some books, some enjoyable books for them to read. And then I bring a 5.5 by 8.5 notebook. This is a bullet journal that I got from Juniper Grove Journals. I like this because it has dots so they can write easily, but they can also draw the architecture. I like them to make drawings of whatever we see. So they have a requirement at the end of the day, they write down what they learned that day or something interesting, and then they draw a picture of it. So when we went to Puerto Rico, there was a lot of drawings of snails and seashells and plants that they saw, and even some birds, because there were some interesting birds that we hadn't seen before, iguanas. They did a lot of nature journaling. But I anticipate that our trip this time is going to be a lot of architecture, so I wanted them to have some dots in there. So that is the bullet journal from Juniper Grove Journals. However, you don't have to use these. You can get any craft notebooks in this size from Amazon, and you can get a huge pack of them for $20. And that's what I usually use for our school notebooks. And so just writing what they learned, drawing a picture of it. They also love to take pictures with my camera or my phone. And when we get back, they can use their journals and the pictures they've taken to make a presentation for family and friends. We do this every time and it's a big hit. My boys love it. We just use the Google, I forget what it's called, Google Slides. We use Google Slides and they take the photos that we've taken, they use their journals and they type it out. And we also go over capitalization, punctuation, and grammar. So we're doing some language arts there, and they put together a presentation and they give it to their friends or their grandparents when we come back. So that is leading into what we do when we come back, which is making a presentation. And in their journals, I like them to say things that they notice. And this is the same questions I use for nature journaling. I notice, I wonder, and this reminds me of. And so you can do that if they're like, I don't know what to write about today. Well, what did you notice? What did you wonder? And so you have some questions, you have their observations, and then this reminds me of they're thinking of past things that it reminds them of. Oh, well, this reminded me of the building that we saw 2 days ago, or whatever it may be. And so they, when we get back, they can use those questions. I wonder why this, or wonder what this. I wonder when this was built. They can use that for further research afterwards. And whatever we didn't get to before we left, if we have a lot of books that we didn't get to, we're going to keep reading those till the end of the semester. And I'm hoping that being in that area, seeing those buildings and just feeling that almost spiritual aspect that surrounds the buildings and the areas is going to motivate them to want to learn more. And it's going to generate more questions in their mind that they wouldn't have before we left. So you don't have to feel so much pressure to learn everything before. You can give them a little taste, get them excited, and then they'll get a lot of momentum going, a lot of motivation while you're traveling to learn more afterwards. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do to prepare before, what we do during, and then what we do after our travel and road schooling. And I'm sure I forgot something, or maybe I wasn't clear on some things, or if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment and I will get back to you. And look for the future videos that we're going to be doing, either of a region or cities. I haven't decided yet. We'll just see how much material we have and how much time of the videos that I'm going to be posting in the future of as we travel. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas of what to study, what to do if you decide you want to go to those same cities and countries. And as always, if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, and if you want to see future videos like this, subscribe so you don't miss any.